So keeping all of those aside, we will be moving forward for the public-private partnership. So PPP, as per the definition here, it says a public-private partnership is an agreement between two or more public and private sectors for a long-term nature. So as the definition says, it is definitely two or three parties who will be coming forward and they will be having a contractual agreement amongst themselves based on who will be having the initial investment or the funding, or what is the percentage of funding who will be giving across, who will be having the designing responsibilities, who will be having the operations responsibilities, and who will be having the maintenance responsibilities. Keeping all of these things into the aspect, government body or two or three private bodies, based on their percentages, they will be coming under a mutual agreement for serving the public projects, that is definitely the infrastructure projects. So all of these, it is actually been implemented in multiple countries. It's not only there in India, but in India it's working out pretty good with respect to PPP model. So not only here, in many of the international countries, PPP has been implemented, and also that is one of the primarily used projects for infrastructure. So PPP model is primarily used model for an infrastructure project. This is a very small understanding about public-private partnership. So now we are moving towards the various characteristics of the public-private partnership. As I mentioned, it is a contractual agreement, so between multiple parties that has been there. And then we have a clear objective. So this particular objective, say for example, we have the national highway construction that has been happening from NHAI, and maybe the contract is given for L&T construction, say for example. So here what happens, there are multiple kinds of PPP models. So we have the boot model, the BOT or the BOOT or a DBOT. These are the various kinds of model. I'll mention before you get confused about this. So BOT model is nothing but build, operate and transfer. So in this build, operate and transfer, what happens? Building of the national highway, having the operations up to certain years, and then they will be transferring it back to the government agencies. So this is where different multiple kinds of PPP models that has been there. So I am not getting into a deeper part of the PPP models, because it definitely varies from one project to another, and it has its own characteristics when it comes to the complete details of the different kinds of PPP models. That was just to give you an understanding on how they will be having an agreed objectives or a set goals on mutual contractual basis. Then we have defined authorities, like I already mentioned. So maybe the initial funding will be there from the government body, and then there will be, say for example, there'll be about 40% of funds that will be raised by the government body, and then 60% that will be raised from a private body. Then what happens? The upper hand will be there with the ones who is investing, investing a little more. So there, the scope of work will be with respect to the private person. So here, just in case, if they take the BOT model, that is a BOT model, they completely take the construction of that highway, the operations of that highway. They will be collecting the maintenance and the operation charges at the toll plazas. Maybe they will have an agreement for about 3 to 5 years. And after they collect, they made their certain amount of profit, then it will be completely handed over, or that ownership will be transferred for the NHAI people. So this is where the authority will be defined based on the mutual consent. And then there is going to be a specific time period. Like I mentioned, if the contract, it will be standing for up to 3 years or up to 8 years. Sometimes it can even go to 12 to 13 years. So after 15 years, that particular transfer will be happening. That is where the specific time period comes into the picture. Then coming to allocation of risk. So this is not only about profit sharing, it also includes the risk sharing, which is very obvious. So when there are two major big parties who are collaborating together for a huge project that it has been happening, when there are any kind of risk, if there are any illegalities that has been there, Now, say for example, this I will stick on to the same highway example. So if that is crossing across any of the agricultural land, if it is going, so the legalities of it will be there on the part of the government body. And then when the construction part, when it comes to the leveling of the subsurfaces of the highway construction that is there, if there is any defaults that has been happening, then it will be taken on the contractor side. So based on their scope of work, how this risk will be allocated between various parties will be coming into the picture here. Then we have predetermined benchmarks. So predetermined benchmarks are nothing but they are like milestones. So they are like a short-term goals for all of the scope of work for the highway construction that will be happening. So say for example, after 5 kilometers of a highway that has been constructed over here. So once that has been done, then what are the kind of changes that they can be doing for next 5 kilometers of the road construction that will be happening. So these are the predetermined benchmarks. So there will be different milestones based on the planning of the whole highway construction. And then lastly, we have the performance linked payment to the private sector. So here it is purely based on the quality of work. The private partner of it would have been given the quality of the work, the maintenance of it. So based on all of it, based on the team that it has been handled by them, and the qualities of the toll plazas, the quality of the barricades that has been separating between the service road and the national highway. So all of these things completely keeping into the picture the nature of the highway mainly. So the duration or the lifespan of that particular highway, keeping all of these performances and what are the charges that they are actually been implicating on that particular highway, these things all coming into the picture, the payment mode to this particular private sector will be made. So that will most likely it will be happening based on the performance of that particular private partner. So these are the various characteristics that will be coming under the PPP model. So here we have the number of projects. So this was from the previous data from 2020 to 2021. We had about 125 PPP model projects. So I have given you an example with respect to a national highway, but the PPP model will also be working on various other subsectors like the roads, I've mentioned ports, even when it comes to tourism. So in tourism, if there is to be any the cable cars that is to be connected, or if there are any new facilities for that is to be provided for the tourism purpose, what are the historic what are the historic story that the particular region has, and what are the culture that it can upheld there. So that is where how they can usually maintain the historical places of that particular tourism areas. That's where the eco tourism comes into the picture. And then we have the silos or the petroleum reserves. Then for the ropeways. So the ropeways are nothing but like the cable cars, how like I mentioned, that is one of the projects that has actually been happening, and that has a cost of about 996 crore rupees that has been invested. Apart from that, the PPP model also works on railway stations, on telecom, and metro station, like I had already mentioned. And apart from that, we have railway passenger trains also. So not only in highway, not only in the metro construction, but also in these various sectors, a PPP model will be coming into the picture, and a total cost of, like, you can literally look at the figure here, it's pretty huge. So that is, say for example, like 1,72,000 crore rupees is what it has been investing in multiple sectors of a PPP model. So this is one of the data just to give you an idea what is the huge amount of funding that has been happening in a PPP projects. So this is the distribution that has been there sector wise that is mentioned over here. So now we have definitely come to the end of this particular session, where we have almost touched base upon what are the scope of government projects and the visions that has been there for the development of an infrastructure project. So by now, I'm definitely sure that you know that there are a lot of scope of work with respect to infrastructure that has been there. So as a site engineer, how you will be contributing in such huge projects, and your scope of works as a site engineer only, how it keeps differing from one subsector of an infrastructure to another subsector of an infrastructure. So this is where we had to give a complete picture and ideology of the various projects that is working. So in our coming next session, we will be talking completely about the urban real estate, or the real estate related projects and the subsectors that is there in real estate also. So these are the things that we'll be concentrating in our next session. And moving forward with that, like I mentioned about the metro station, we will be having the sequence of activities in the upcoming videos. So definitely stay tuned for the real estate video that will be coming up next. And thank you so much. I will be winding up this particular session over here.